birthday to you. You live in a zoo. We're gonna tell you a story about Papa, or maybe we'll let him tell you.
I lived 8 miles from Americus, and bear in mind there were no telephones out in the country areas at that time. If you got sick, you went into town, which is about a 2.5-hour drive with a horse and buggy, get a doctor, and the doctor had an old car that was not dependable, so he also kept a horse and buggy. So if he came out to the house, another 2.5 hours with his horse and buggy. And so it was just not practical to take the patient into the doctor because he had no facility to take care of. Rather primitive, we'd say, compared with present day standards. In 1914, war was brewing in Europe, and we were beginning to hear about it in the newspapers. My father subscribed to the Atlanta Constitution, and it was printed weekly and sent to us by mail. And it would be about 3 days late when getting to us out on the rural route. About this time, the county graded a road in front of through our place, and the cars began to travel. So we were seeing cars quite frequently. My dad had hogs on the pasture, and during watermelon season, he'd haul the watermelons up and put them down outside the fence. And then 2 or 3 times a day, somebody would go down and throw the watermelons over to the hogs. I was down there one day, and a man and woman came by in a car and stopped. And he says, "Son, how much are your watermelons?" Well, that startled me. I'd never heard of anyone buying a watermelon. If you were riding along and wanted a watermelon, you saw one over in somebody's field, you just went and got it, ate what you wanted, and left the rest of it there. But he must have seen the puzzled look on my face, because he said, "Well, 25 cents do." And 25 cents. I just couldn't imagine somebody paying a quarter for a watermelon. No one who lived through World War II will ever forget entirely the many things that happened, especially if he was out in the public. One of the outstanding things that I remember occurred when a group of soldiers from Camp Landing, they had 90,000 men out there one time, got in a fight with a group of civilians. The civilians were in the back of a restaurant and bar combined, and the soldiers came in and they began throwing things, dishes and plates, cups and saucers and everything back and forth. I drove by in a police car, and the owner of the place stopped me and asked me to come in. Well, we were in one section of the building looking through a door, and I realized with about 30 soldiers and probably 35, 40 civilians that one man had little chance of quieting them down. So I got my police whistle and let out a couple of sharp blasts and hollered, "MPs, MPs," and the soldiers all turned and ran. The place was in a shambles. I think all of the cups and saucers and plates must have been broken, but at least they didn't tear the place completely up. To summarize some of the events, I would say that the war years were marked by hard work, trying times, and doing without a lot of things you'd like to have, for instance, gasoline and tires, and sugar and meat. and shoes were almost unobtainable. Unfortunately, I started off the war with a good supply of shoes. I was in Washington, and I saw one pair in the window that I liked. I went in and bought it, and they were so comfortable until the next Saturday I went back and bought another pair of a different color. And Sunday morning I woke up headlines on the paper that the sale of shoes had been stopped and would be rationed from then on. So I had a good supply of shoes. All of the ration coupons that I received, I passed on to members of the family. Back in the days when Mary Jean and Lynn were growing up, I got 2 weeks vacation every year, and each summer there was a great clamor as to what will we do for vacation. And almost invariably it wound up as a trip into the mountains. One memorable evening and night happened in Waynesville. We got into Waynesville late in the afternoon. All of the tourist facilities were full, and we were directed to a house near the downtown section where the lady rented rooms. Well, it looked like the last resort, so we went down to his house. It was a huge 2-story house, and she lived downstairs, and she put us in a room upstairs on the back part of the house. It seems quite a coincidence now that Mary Jean and Lynn would be living in Waynesville or nearby, and I should be a frequent visitor there. When maybe 25, 30 years ago, we just spent one night there. We were glad to get out next morning. But for the moment, I'll have to say au revoir and sign off.